Welcome back to 07. Again, grammar. What could be more fun? Ask you every time. No one's ever answered. Right? So grammar. Today we're going to work on complex sentences. Okay? Oh, oh, anyway. All right, so a complex sentence contains an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Right? So an independent clause can stand alone as a sentence. All right? A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence and begins with a subordinate conjunction. All right. So complex sentence. We pitched our tent where the ground was flat and dry. Okay. So our independent clause, we pitched our tent. All right. That can stand alone. However, our dependent clause where the ground was flat and dry, that one cannot stand alone. So complex sentences aren't compound sentences where they're two sentences put together. Instead, it's one sentence and we add on to it. But we need that first part of the sentence. We need that independent part. We pitched the tent. After I wrote that, then I can put the where the ground was flat and dry. Okay? So some common subordinate conjunctions are after, although, before, because, during, if, since, until, when, where, and while. All right? So these add to our sentence. Remember, they do not make it into a sentence. All right? Dependent means you need something else. All right? So use a comma after the dependent clause when it comes at the beginning of the sentence. All right? So if the dependent clause is at the end, but when it's at the beginning, we do need to put our comma there. So after the sun went down, that's my dependent clause, we heard an owl. Okay? So the independent clause, that's we heard an owl. That's by itself. Okay? The dependent comes first, so we need a comma after it. So, oh my goodness, my table was all moved. So we're going to talk about the independent clause and the dependent clause. We looked up at the sky after it got dark. The independent one is we looked up at the sky. I can stand alone. Then I noticed it has a subordinating conjunction after, and then our dependent clause. It got dark. Okay? So you might see a shooting star if you wait long enough. So again, our independent clause is you might see a shooting star. Then our subordinate conjunction is if, and then you wait long enough. Okay, so that's our dependent at the end. Now, number 3 starts with the dependent clause. While we were watching, has its comma, the moon rose above the trees. Okay, while we were watching, the moon rose above the trees. Number 4 also starts with a dependent clause. When I grow up, comma, and then I might become an astronaut. So this one has a dependent clause in the beginning. It has its comma, and then its independent clause, its sentence. Okay? Number 5, we talked until our parents told us to go to sleep. Okay? So it has an independent and dependent. Now, when you use these, okay, be careful. So as our next, we'll talk about run-on sentences. But adding on to a sentence with independent and dependent clauses are good, but we don't want to keep going and make it a run-on sentence, or don't use any of our conjunctions. Okay? There's subordinate or coordinating conjunctions, whichever one. If we're trying to add two compounds or two sentences into a compound sentence or a complex sentence, we need something to join them. Okay? And then once we join them, we do need to end them before they get too big. All right? So run-on sentences. I know this is a little small, but I do want everyone to see this one. Run-on sentences contain two or more independent clauses without proper conjunctions or punctuations. I dropped a book. My cat got scared. It ran away. All right. You can correct run-on sentences using one or more strategies. Okay. So as we keep reading, we notice this one. I dropped my book. Cat got scared. It ran away. Doesn't have any punctuation. I'm sorry, conjunctions or punctuation. So my alarm didn't go off. I missed the bus. So remember that one goes to our dependent and independent clauses, right? We needed a comma there. Mom was already at work. I had to walk. So I could use a conjunction. Mom was already at work, so I had to walk. Mom was already at work. Therefore, I needed to walk. Okay. So we can use conjunctions. We use our commas. The sun was out. It was really chilly. So I can add a conjunction. The sun was out, but it was really chilly. I can use period and just make them two different sentences. But what we need to do is combine run-on sentences. I go to school. I raced up to the door. So I go to school. I raced up to the door. I'm sorry. I got to school and I raced up to the door. I got to school. Then I raced up to the door. Okay. I got to school. But I raced up to the door. I got to school. However, I raced up to the door. So we need something to combine these. I was so embarrassed. It was closed. It was Saturday. I was so embarrassed. It was closed. It was Saturday. So we can break this apart. I was so embarrassed because it was closed. Right? I was so embarrassed because it was closed on Saturday. So we want to try and work these two together. So break apart independent clauses into separate sentences. And create compound subjects or compound predicates. I dropped my book. My cat got scared. It ran away. Right? So I can write, I dropped my book. My cat got scared and ran away. So if you see, I took those two sentences. My cat got scared. It ran away. And now combine them into compound predicate, compound verbs. Okay? Or I dropped my book. My cat got scared and ran away. Because I dropped my book, my cat got scared and ran away. So when you're working on your writing, what I want you to start doing is looking at your sentences. If you have multiple subjects in one sentence, multiple predicates or verbs in one sentence, start thinking, how can I break them apart or how can I combine them? So different strategies, okay? We can add conjunctions, like in our first set. We can break them apart, make them two different sentences, or we can combine the subjects, okay? Or combine the predicate. So think of different ways. As always, 207, you know where I am. Either raise your hand when you take it to school, or ask your adult, okay? But keep in mind, as you're writing, you want to make sure if it's not a simple sentence, it has one of these conjunctions, or it has some kind of punctuation, it has a comma, it needs other stuff in it other than just a very long one-page sentence, okay? All right, enjoy. You know where I am. Have a good one. Either see you later or maybe just look up from your computer and I'll be right there.